So this is our MIG welder. And it has, like the stick welder, well, it's one of our MIG welders, it has a ground that you need to clamp either directly to the table that you work, the metal table the welding table that you're working on, or directly to the piece itself that's too large to be on the table. And then it has, this is the gun cable, which it has, what the MIG has is instead of that stick electrode, it has a wire electrode. And it's in a spool inside the machine here. And it gets pushed through this hose all the way out to the end here. And what you want to do is make one thing, or what you don't want to do is twist this in tight knots or twists. It's better, I mean, it's flexible, but it's better to keep it untangled and twist it up. It'll be easier for that to push. If you have, shut that. If you have a problem with the wire coming out, stop using it and come and get me or the lab tech, and we can work on trying to get that disconnected, fixed. Sometimes it gets fused to the end here if you let it melt back to the tip. I'm going to remove this. You don't usually don't take this apart. Just want to show you what's inside here. This tip is here, and that, if this wire melts back to it, it'll get fused to that. Always have this in place when you're welding. There's also a bunch of crud that's built up on there, and we can use this tool. If we take this apart again, so there's stuff built up in there. I can use this kind of tool, or almost anything else too, to kind of, you don't want to bend and damage this, but you can just kind of gently scrape some of that crud off of there. But you shouldn't have to. If you have trouble with it, you feel like you have to force something or jam onto it, do not bang on that or damage it, okay? And usually the wire, when we're welding, is about 3/8 to 1/2 inch of stick out. We'll talk about that more. Before we get to the controls, up here is the regulator attached to the shielding gas. Now on the stick welder, we'll talk about that. But as these, when we do that more demo in it, when these melt away, this coating burns off and pushes the air and the oxygen in the air away from the molten puddle of the weld area. That, if you notice that it's a steel wire with a copper coating, there's none of this stuff that's burning off and pushing the oxygen away. There's something called a flux core wire, which has an inside core of this kind of coating inside. We don't have that right now. But what we have is a shielding gas. So when I turn the machine on, when I pull the trigger, that wire becomes electrified. It starts moving and feeding out. So you're not hand feeding it in like you would with a stick welder. And then the solenoid, electric solenoid that's inside there valve opens up and lets the gas out. So the gas pushes the air away. So if you don't have that on, you'll get a very porous, brittle, not so good weld. As much pressure as a oxygen tank would be, but you want to generally stand to one side of it. Don't have your face right up in there in case something were to burst, and have your safety glasses on. Turn the main valve on, and this first gauge goes up, hopefully, unless we're out of gas. So you open that all the way, and then this adjusting screw, I'm going to turn clockwise till this needle on the second gauge goes up to about 15 CFH, so that's the black numbers right there. So you want to remember to do that. And if you notice really porous little holes, it looks bad, it might be that there's no gas coming out. So this one opens up the main tank, and then this adjusts it to come out the hose into the machine and out the end of the gun. All right. On the machine itself, I'm going to bring you in closer. The on switch is located right here on the back. Okay. Kind of hard to see, but it's right there. Okay, we're back. I'll have to edit a lot of that. Anyway, so on the machine itself, so we have the power from that switch that's stuck in the back where you can't hard to reach it. Is on. We have some lights on here. Green, it means the power is coming to it. If this one's flashing, it's overheated. So we have some controls. We have two dials, okay? We're going to use this manually right now. This dial is the amount of voltage, or the amount of heat that you're going to get, if you want to think about it that way, the electricity, the power. So the higher I have it up, the more power there is, the thicker. You'll notice they put on this, they've got 1 to 10, but they also have an outside ring where they have thickness. So that's basically a mild steel kind of thickness. So if we were working with that 18 gauge, we'd have it around the 3. Now that's a ballpark. You can kind of adjust in, weld a little bit. It's going to depend on how you're welding. So you can adjust that. So if you're melting holes through it, you want to turn it down. If your bead is not melting into it, it's not actually melting the metal, you might need to turn it up. Now you can kind of use that thickness as a ballpark. In the middle here, they have this switch, which has for flux core wire, which we're not using, stainless steel we're not using, MIG steel C25. The shielding gas, I forgot to mention, is 75% argon and 25% carbon dioxide. So it's a mixture. So there's also just a carbon dioxide mix as well, CO2. And then MIG steel, this is for 100% carbon dioxide, which we're not using right now. And then there's also a setting for a MIG gun. So generally speaking on this machine, it's straight up and down, that middle one. That's where you want to be when you're welding the mild steel with the way that's usually set up. Now, on this is how fast that wire comes out. So if you have this really high, these kind of work together. So if you have this high and this slow, you can actually, the wire won't be going fast enough. But if you have this too fast, you'll have too much wire coming out that you won't be able to melt it. So if you have it really slow and a lot of power, it'll melt back to that tip. If you have it really fast and not much power, it will kind of give you a popping sound because you're not have enough heat to actually melt the metal. That can also by having a long stick out, having the wire sticking out from the end of the tip on the gun for more than half an inch or so. We also have an auto setting, and I'm right now, the thickness of wire, there's 3 settings here, 0.035, 0.030, and 0.024. Right now we have an 0.030 wire inside the machine. That's the thickness of the wire. What that does is now you don't have to adjust this at all. You just turn this to what thickness or what power you want, and it'll automatically set how fast the wire comes out. Now that can work pretty well, but if it's not working for you, go back to using it manually. All right. So while we have 2 of the smaller ones, we also have this larger MIG welder. It has a ground and a regular gun like the other one. It also has a spool gun and has 2 cylinders on the back with shielding gases. The one on the left is for steel and the one on the right is for aluminum. On the controls, it has 2 dials, one dial that is the voltage and the other dial that is the wire speed, and there's a little chart inside there that kind of gives you some settings. So it doesn't have the auto setting, but you have to figure it out on your own. And then underneath that, there's a little power switch down there right where my finger is. So remember, all the welding machines, make sure you turn them off and shut off the gases when you're done.